Welcome to the Project Management Prepcast, your guide to PMP exam success. Here's your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner.
Hello and welcome to the Project Management Prepcast. We are your trusted companion on the long and winding road to the Prometric Test Center. I'm your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner. PMI has defined 20 cross-cutting knowledge and skills in the PMP exam content outline. And this means you have to know them, because on the PMP exam it's very likely that you will find one or two questions about these cross-cutting knowledge and skills. This here is part 2 of our review of these skills. Let's take the next 4 slides and put them all together onto one slide here. Our lesson focus here are, of course, the cross-cutting knowledge and skills that go across the 5 domains in the PMP exam. Here is a list of these 20, and here is how we divided them up into 4 lessons. We are going to take a look at data gathering, decision making, facilitation, information management, and leadership tools in the next few minutes. And for each of these, I'll give you a definition. We'll look at 2 facts. We'll see where on projects you can use them. And for all of them, we'll give you a tips, tricks, or possibly a how-to. So let's jump right into the first cross-cutting knowledge and skill here, the 5th in the list from PMI. It is the data gathering techniques. And as you can gather from the title and the name of this technique, well, it's simply the process of collecting data. You want to gather data, you want to find data in order to obtain information, and then to keep this information and record and use it later on to make decisions. Note that the decision making is not actually part of the data gathering techniques, as you will see in the next set of slides when we look at the 6th of these cross-cutting knowledge and skills decision making techniques. But that we'll get to in just a few minutes. Now, data gathering techniques. In regards to the 2 facts that you need to know about data gathering techniques, here are 2 supporting actors. These 2 facts aren't necessarily about the technique, but they help, they aid the technique. First of all, it is important to identify the right sources of information. Just imagine what would happen if you got your data from sources that were unreliable or simply the wrong sources. Then all the data that you gather will definitely lead to wrong decision making. And when it comes to decision making, once you have the data gathered, well, you have to use proper modeling methods that enable you to build a system, a model that is supporting the analysis, helping you to keep track of maybe what has been done to date on the project and what remains to be done in order to complete the work. And where do we use data gathering techniques on projects? Well, pretty much any time when you have lots of data that is distributed and you have to bring it together for analysis and later decision making. So, project assessment methods, selection methods, risk identification techniques, capturing the customer satisfaction and feedback at the very end of your project, and of course, very important throughout the project, collecting quality measurements in order to make sure that the deliverables that you are creating are in fact meeting customer requirements. Here is a simple process that you can go through when you have to begin gathering data. Begin by establishing a goal. Don't ever do anything without knowing, why are we doing this? Why are we going to collect all this data? What's the final objective? What do we want to do with all of this information? Then identify the actual techniques and the procedure. The technique is how are we going to record all this data, and the procedure could be when are we doing it, what steps are we going through in order to measure and to record the information. Then schedule and assign activities for the actual data gathering. As you have identified the techniques and the procedures, you now know what you have to do, so give it to somebody to do. Later on, you need to present your findings. There is, of course, an analysis in between, and as I promised, we'll look at that in just a moment with the next cross-cutting knowledge and skill. So you need to present findings, and you need to make decisions based on the data gathering technique. And of course, you want to make sure that you keep reviewing this process and improving the system. Were the goals the right goals? Were the techniques and the procedures the right techniques and the procedures? Do we have to assign this to somebody else, possibly even? And here we are now at the cross-cutting knowledge and skill number 6, decision-making techniques. And yes, this is simply the process of making a choice between multiple available options. Of course, in some instances, decision-making may simply consist of you making up your mind to do something. However, most often on projects, there is some kind of a process ahead of the decision-making technique. But whether the process relies more on your intuition and your decision-making abilities, or maybe there is a data gathering process, as we have just seen ahead of this, both involve some kind of an internal process inside of you to help you make a good decision. As we have seen in the lessons on human resources, there are several ways on how managers and project managers can make decisions. The top two are obviously either doing it by authority, meaning the project manager makes a decision based on his or her authority. I'm saying where we are going. Or the other option, usually the better option because group cohesion is improved, you bring everybody in order to make a particular decision. And there are 3 levels, so to speak, of decisions that you can make. You can make a strategic decision, a tactical decision, or an operational decision. And yes, this also works on your project, and this is not just useful in a business environment. You can make a strategic decision on a project. Where are we going based on the business needs, based on the requirements, based on the strategy that we have on this project? You can make a tactical decision. I am going to assign this particular task here to Susan and not to Joe because Susan has more experience. That would be a tactical decision. And when it comes to the operational decision, also not a problem because often our projects have to deliver something, right? And if you are, say, in a manufacturing environment and you are producing some kind of a widget, you will have to make operational decisions like we need to retool our machines after 300,000 items have been produced. And pray tell, where on the project would we be using decision-making techniques? Well, as the theory says, really any time when we have to make a choice between available options. Here are 4 ideas, beginning with the cost-benefit analysis. We have multiple projects and we run a cost-benefit analysis in order to help us decide. We often have competing project constraints and there are trade-offs that we have to work with here. We are going to have to decide whether or not we are going to increase the budget on our project or if we are going to extend the schedule. We have make or buy decisions on our projects, and this would definitely be one of those strategic decisions that we just spoke about. Are we going to make the deliverable ourselves or are we going to outsource it to somebody else? And last but not least, every project has change requests, and we are going to have to decide, are we going to implement this change request? Yes or no? And just like for the data gathering technique a moment ago, here is a simple process for the decision-making techniques. And you could have guessed this one. Begin with your objective. What exactly are we trying to resolve here? What is the decision going to support. Get the facts. Yes, this is where the data gathering technique first comes into play. You need to first focus on that before you can make a decision. You need to develop and rate alternatives. We could go left, we could go straight, we could go right, and you then have to analyze the risk. Well, what could happen if we go left? What could happen if we go right? And in the end, just like on the PMP exam, where sometimes there isn't the right answer, you are going to have to choose the best option. And that's, of course, the difficult bit, knowing in advance which one is the best option, because sometimes there is just no right. Well then, we've had the data gathering techniques, we had the decision making techniques, and now we're moving on to number 7, facilitation. And you could say, whoa, that is a right turn. There is no continuation of the theme that we have just heard here. Well, not really. Even though facilitation may sound like it has nothing to do with data gathering and with decision making, it is still in the same area, because facilitation is the guidance of a group in a problem-solving process. The facilitator, usually a neutral person in regards to the issues and the topics that are being discussed, this facilitator works with the group as a whole and provides procedural help in moving the group towards a decision. In regards to the 2 facts that you need to know about facilitation, well, I've already taken one ahead of time here. A facilitator is neutral in regards to the issues that we are facilitating here. But just like in mediation, this neutrality is not really all that important if the facilitator is somebody who is well respected. More about the facilitator, the neutrality, in a couple of slides when we look at the actual process of facilitation. Facilitation brings out all the points of view that are represented in a group. In a small group, a facilitator can encourage discussion from all participants, and sharing viewpoints stimulates the discussion. And giving a lack of full expression of the views, well, you don't get to actually the point of it. And that's where the facilitator comes in. It is the facilitator's job to ask hypothetical questions and get the discussion moving forward. So it's important to get out all the viewpoints that are represented in the group that is participating here in this facilitation process. There is one specific time in a project where I personally love to be involved in the facilitation, where I like to be the facilitator, and that is during solutions development. I really enjoy it when we have multiple groups of people in a room, maybe the business, designers, IT, and you have to help bring them together in order to develop a feasible solution. There is a lot of creativity that is going into this particular process. For me personally, I love to be there and I love to run that particular facilitation. But of course, other areas are, you could have workshops in regards to your projects. Sometimes you have bidder conferences where facilitation could be used, or more often than not, unfortunately, in conflict resolution, you may need to bring in a facilitator. And here is an overview over the facilitation process. Begin by making a connection with the participants. It is of a very high importance that you understand who the people are in the room in order to figure out and help them figure out really the right way to move forward. You have to act positively. There may be negative feelings among the people, among the group. You have to find the positive in their relationship, and you have to help them come to a positive end. You have to get to the heart of the matter. As we have heard previously, as the facilitator, you can ask hypothetical questions, but you should also ask the difficult question. Often there are white elephants in the room, problems that nobody wants to acknowledge. You, as the facilitator, have to bring those problems out. And this may mean having to meet with people beforehand, before the actual facilitation happens, in order to understand them, in order to make a connection, in order to be able to get to the heart of the matter. You have to interpret the facts. It's okay as the facilitator to say, well, based on everything that I have heard, this is my interpretation of the facts. Is this correct? This helps people to discuss the matter at hand with a different viewpoint, your viewpoint. But it's not just the spoken facts you have to interpret, it's also the visual cues and the clues that you get from people's body language. And of course, in the end, there has to be a professional close. There has to be a decision in regards to where are we going from here? What are we doing next? And remember, I said that we would be coming back to the fact that the facilitator has to be neutral. Well, the best way of ensuring that the facilitator is neutral is get someone else to do it. Don't do it if it happens on your own project. You are more often than not the right facilitator. Bring somebody in if the facilitation requires a neutral person. We are moving on to the next cross-cutting knowledge and skill, and we are going to stay in the general theme of data gathering, decision-making, facilitation with information management, tools, techniques, and methods. Information management is the collection and management of the information from one or more sources, and then the distribution of that information also to one or more audiences. And this sometimes involves people who have something at stake, most often the stakeholders in your project, and they have a right to that information. Let's also remind ourselves that management here means that we need to organize and control the structure and the processing and the delivery of all of this information from the source to the recipients. One strategy to follow is, of course, that you want to be able to increase your processing capacity. It is very important in today's day and age where we are being bombarded with information left and right that it's easy and quick for us to process all the information, all the data that we receive, and hopefully that we are also able to reduce everybody's needs in regards to the information that they want to a level that is supported by our processing capacity. All of this, of course, means automation. We need to be able to bring the information together into a centralized location. Often this is some kind of a project management information system. But even though I've just said centralization, decentralization is also an important factor that plays into this. Now imagine you have all the data in one spot in your PMIS, and everybody is coming to you saying, give me this report, give me that report, I want a new overview over everything that's going on in the project. You want to be able to hand the ability to create all of these reports, all of this information management out to these people directly. So if you are a project manager overseeing several sub-projects, you want your sub-project managers to be able to run all the reports that they need, all the processing that they have to do on their own without you having been involved. If you haven't noticed yet, on your desk as a project manager, there is a constant inflow of information that you need to make heads or tails on. So when it comes to the usage on projects, you could really say, well, from start to finish, every single day, every single minute of when we manage a project, that's when we use this. But let's be a bit more specific. Here are 5 ideas. In regards to project assessment, we have to manage information that we have all about this. Quality control, risk monitoring, reporting. Quite clearly you have information that is coming in and that is going out, and stakeholder management. That's where information management techniques and methods come into play most of the time. And now let's jump into some heavy-duty information management theory here. Often these theories, they work on various levels. The model that I would like to introduce to you here has 5 such levels. The initial level, level 1, obviously, offers significant improvements over a traditional enterprise search where you can just start searching data in your company, both on relevance of the data that you find and also user experience. This is things like advanced search across content sources in your company. You can look for keywords. It has a graphical user interface. There is real-time security, real-time permissioning, and also real-time field updates. And as you may notice, this goes way beyond project management. So you wouldn't want to implement this just for a project. This is, of course, on an enterprise level that we're talking here. Level 2 not only brings together various content sources, as we have seen in Level 1, but we are now starting to integrate the data. We're making it immediately available. It becomes unified. And this unified information is thoroughly linked, indexed, it is complete, and it gives you well-related results. The third level then moves actually beyond just simple unified information access. It includes interactive dashboards or some special purpose graphical user interfaces. So here we're talking about delivery of our information. Level 4 introduces even more sophistication in regards to role-based applications and integrated business and analytics that bring together text and data analysis. And last but not least, Level 5 extends the advantages of such a unified information access across the organization. Now we're talking multinational companies. Emphasizes the delivery of services that are built on standards, flexible architecture, avoiding problems that you get if you have multiple data sources where you have to input the information into. You try to reduce silos, but you try to reduce silos without sacrificing the value added to data in application processing. Whoa, yes, like I said, some heavy-duty information management theory. And now we are definitely moving away from the theme of data gathering, information management, decision making by moving on to leadership tools and techniques. Leadership is, of course, the process by which we as project leaders are going to be influencing others on our project team and, of course, other project stakeholders as well in order to accomplish our project's objectives. It also helps us in directing and organizing everyone on the project in such a way that it makes those involved in doing the project work more as a cohesive and coherent group. Effective communication plays a major part in leadership tools. They are the key to winning trust and confidence from the team. First and foremost, it helps employees understand the company's overall strategy in regards to the project. Leadership also means that you aim in helping project team members understand how they contribute to achieving the project's objectives. It explains to them why their work on this project is important. It is also a good idea to take people into your confidence as a leader, sharing information with project team members on both how the project is doing and how their particular area of the project is doing, relative, of course, to the project's business objectives. That will keep them motivated and will keep them going. In regards to where we are going to use leadership tools and techniques in projects, well, let's look no further than at ourselves, because the first step in good leadership is self-management. If you cannot manage yourself, if you cannot lead yourself, then the next item here, team leadership, will be much more difficult. Stakeholder management obviously is part of your task as a leader on a project, but the overarching idea of why we use leadership tools and techniques on a project is quite clearly, as a leader, you give the project direction and you give the vision of where we are going. What is the direction? What is the end of the project going to be like? That is what you give to your project team. Here are a few items to remember when it comes to leadership tools and techniques. Many of these we have talked about in the human resources lessons. First of all, begin by providing clear expectations. Leadership begins with the end in mind, so tell the people on your project what you expect of them and what they can expect of you. In order for them to succeed, well, you have to give them the tools to success. Make sure that they have everything they need in order to reach the expectations that you have set out for them. And once they start working and you see that, well, they're doing good work, well, tell them that they're doing good work. Tell them in private and tell them in public. You have to be interested in your team, and of course you have to be interested in your team members, because you cannot be interested in the team as a whole. You have to be interested in the person, and not just in regards to, well, how is the work going, but also, so what did you do this weekend? You should also value their opinion. Don't tell your team that, well, my door is always open and I'm here for you, and then you ignore whatever they have to say. And last but not least, don't forget that you need to develop your team. Think about their future. Show them that you want to help them beyond this project, that their career and their best interest is your number one priority. And that's it. We have reached the end of this review. We have talked about data gathering, decision making, facilitation, information management, and leadership tools. There they go. I'll see you again in part 3 when we'll talk about negotiation, communications, presentation tools, prioritization, and problem solving. Until next time.